Today I'm going to be giving you all of my best secrets for perfectly fudgy brownies every time. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to be preheating my oven to 160 degrees today. If you have a conventional oven, that will convert to 180, so let me go do that now. 160 degrees is the sweet spot for making the perfect brownies because they don't cook too fast or too slow. If they were cooking too fast, they could burn quickly and easily become dry. The first thing we always do when we make brownies is we start off by whisking our eggs and sugar together with an electric mixer if possible. The results unfortunately won't be the same if you're not using an electric mixer, and I will explain why momentarily. And then I'm adding in a mix of caster sugar and light brown sugar. We add a bit of brown sugar just to give these brownies their chewiness, and also the brown sugar adds a little bit more flavour, which is great. So when we do this, we're going to be using a whisk attachment, not the paddle attachment. And the whole reason that we do this is because whisking the eggs and sugar together incorporates air into the mixture. That then in turn helps create that really lovely and chewy, crackly top that we look for with brownies. There are a lot of benefits of doing this. It also helps the brownies hold their shape rather than becoming like a sort of liquidy mess. The only thing you need to be careful of is making sure you don't over mix, just because then it can actually make the brownies too fluffy and then in turn cakey, which we don't want. So I will show you what mine looks like after it's been fully whisked so you know how far to go. I am going to do this on a sort of medium to high speed. I would say between 6 and 8 on my KitchenAid. Not even on. You should be left with something that looks like that, and you're going to be left with a few little air bubbles at the top, which is completely normal. You literally just need to tap it on the surface of your counter and they just slightly go away. Just don't do it too hard. You basically want it to be a sort of thickened consistency that's like fluffy at the same time. Next up, we need to melt our butter and our chocolate together. It's very important to make sure that you don't use margarine for brownies. This is unsalted butter. I wouldn't recommend using salted butter unless you like really salty brownies, but margarine isn't going to give you the same results. You're not going to get that nice crackly top and you won't get a chewy edge. I've tried it before and it just doesn't work. We're going to melt that in a bowl with milk chocolate. You can use dark chocolate if you prefer, but I am more of a fan of milk chocolate. If possible, try and use good quality chocolate because you really can taste the difference. If you're not bothered about that, then any chocolate will really do. This chocolate is from Tesco and Aldi. Occasionally I do use Cadbury as a treat. It is so expensive though, and actually adding in real chocolate into your batter is one of the most important steps for getting super fudgy brownies. It's what's going to give these brownies that nice fudgy texture while helping them hold their shape. So we're just going to melt this in the microwave for 15-second intervals at a time, stirring between each one because the last thing we want is the chocolate to burn. And we're going to be left with a really nice, smooth, silky, liquidy, chocolatey, buttery thing. I will show you what that looks like when it's done. There are going to be moments in the microwave process where you're thinking, this doesn't look like it's coming together, but don't worry, just trust the process and it will all come together into this lovely silky smooth chocolatey mixture that looks like this. Just really make sure you don't over microwave it, otherwise it can become a bit bitty. What we're going to do now is pour this into our egg and sugar mixture very carefully. We are going to gently, very gently fold this together, but not fully. We don't need to completely incorporate everything at this stage because that can actually knock the air out and then our brownies won't rise. I'm just going to do a few gentle stirs as so, just to give it a little bit of like a marble look inside the bowl. And then once it's at that stage, I'm just going to move it out of the way while I measure out my flour and cocoa powder. The same does go for cocoa powder if you can use a higher quality one. It is recommended, but it's not the end of the world if you can't. It can make a difference to the actual colour of the brownies, I've noticed. Times are very hard and ingredients do cost an arm and a leg, which is just another thing entirely. I could rant about that for days. The best fudgy brownies don't have much dry ingredients in them because the more flour you add, the cakier they're going to be, so you really don't need a lot. I'm just going to take a small sieve, put that over the bowl, and then just start adding in spoonfuls of my cocoa powder and flour. I would say it's essential to sieve your cocoa powder and flour into the batter. If you don't, you will really be left with like pockets of cocoa powder, and I used to not bother doing this and I did actually suffer the consequences. This is going to prevent that, and it's also just going to help them have a really nice texture. Once I've done this, we're just going to fold everything together until we are left with a fudgy brownie batter. It is best to do the folding as gently as possible because again, we don't want to be too harsh with the batter. This can affect the texture. A lot of things can affect the texture. Round and round in gentle circles, and then do like a figure of 8 until it all comes together nicely. I will show you what my batter looks like when it's ready. Okay, so this is what you're going to be left with. A really gorgeous, smooth brownie batter, which actually just starts to thicken the longer it sits out, basically, which is a good thing. So at this point, it's time to choose what you're going to add into your brownies. You can just go go for a simple chocolate chip, white chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, whatever you want to add. I'm gonna go have a look what I've got. I'm gonna go for some white chocolate, some milk chocolate, and some fake Oreos that I just need to use up. You can chop up chocolate if you prefer, or you can get ready-made chocolate chips. The difference isn't too drastic, but the only good thing about using the pre-made chocolate chips is I think they disperse better throughout the dough, so that they're less likely to sink. What I actually do love so much about brownies specifically is you can really just go crazy with the customization of them. You can add in basically anything you like. Just recently I did these like Marvelous Creation ones, so I added jelly beans, the like Cadbury Marvelous Creation bars, and it was so good. I just find that really fun. I sort of try and do like a different flavour each week. I think next week I'm going to do bourbon biscuits. This is probably the best type of tin you can use for brownies. It's a 9x9 square tin. We are going to grease that with a little bit of margarine. It's just easier than using real butter because this just sort of stays a bit softer in the fridge. And we're literally just going to rub a little bit all around the tin. Just make sure you've got the bottom sufficiently covered. You really don't need too much of this, just enough to make sure that the baking paper actually sticks to it. Some people do it and then just literally put the brownie straight in, but then you can't really get it out the tray, so baking paper is essential in my eyes. And at this point we just need to line our tray, making sure we've got enough baking paper to cover it entirely. To get it like neatly into the tin, I basically do like little cuts like this all around, just 2 on each side. You just push it down and all of the sides neatly fit into the tray. Just play around with that until you're happy with it. Just leave you with something like this. It's not, you know, super perfect. We don't need to be super neat with this. By this time the brownie batter is like really nice and fudgy as the chocolate and the butter begin to like set inside of it sort of. So now we're just going to add our batter into the tin. You can just pour it in, but I want to show you what it looks like. Let's look at that. So nice and thick. If it's too loose, we're just not going to get that texture we're looking for. I am such a brownie person. Brookies are my favourite because that combo cookie and brownie is just too good. So I definitely recommend using a spatula to get the brownie batter out of your mixing bowl because it basically leaves behind no residue. We don't want to waste any of this delicious brownie batter. Last step before they go in the oven, we're just going to get a spoon and then just move it all around the tin, making sure it's entirely covering it and looks nice and even. There you have it, perfectly fudgy brownie batter. So before they go in, I'm going to give you my best baking advice for these brownies. We're going to bake them until they're slightly wobbly. If you go like that, you'd be able to see they're a little bit wobbly. That's what we want. And then you know they're done by doing the skewer test. I'll show you what that looks like. You just use one of these, you poke it all the way through the middle of the brownie, and we need it to be left with a little bit of residue still left on it. If it hasn't got anything left, it means that the brownies are overcooked, unfortunately. But we don't want it to be entirely saturated, just like a little thin layer of brownie batter, and that's how you know when you need to take it out of the oven. Also, another point to mention, everybody's ovens do run at different temperatures. Even if you're following a recipe that says like bake for 35 minutes, I would still check yours maybe after 30, even 25, just because sometimes things can actually accelerate the baking time, such as where you've got your brownies in the oven. I would recommend baking them on a middle rack. Some ovens can take longer to cook, so if they're not done by 35 minutes, for example, don't be disheartened. Just keep baking in 5-minute intervals and doing the skewer test until you're happy with the consistency. So let's put them in. Here they are. You can see that gorgeous crackly top. That's how you know they're perfect. I thought it would be helpful to show you what my skewer looked like so I knew it was done. This is how much residue was left on there. I would say that's like the perfect amount, so you know they're not going to be too raw. They're perfect. They're perfect. They smell amazing as well. The next thing that I think it's important to mention is how to leave them to set so that they're fudgy when you cut into them, because the last thing that you would want is to slice it up and it's just like a gooey fondue mess. So the best thing you can do is you have to let them set in the fridge overnight. This step is crucial to getting fudgy brownies. Like, there's no other way around it. Well, there is a secret tip. I'll share that in a minute. Let them cool fully to room temperature. That takes, I would say, over an hour. It is a slow process, but it is worth it. If you can wait it out, you will get the results you're looking for. Patience is a virtue. Then put them in the fridge overnight. It doesn't have to be for 24 hours. Let's just say you were putting them in at like 4 o'clock and then you take them out the next day at like 12. That would be fine because it's had all overnight to like firm up. That's what it's doing in the fridge. It's all firming up so that when you slice into them, they just hold their shape indefinitely. They won't just become like really gooey and liquidy when they get to room temperature. If you haven't got time to wait that long, there is a secret little tip which I will share. It's only for emergencies though, guys. Wait until they're as room temperature as possible. The best you can get away with is like slightly lukewarm, and then freeze them for about 3 hours minimum, 3 to 4. I would say 3 will work, and then when you take them out, they will be ready to slice. That is a good hack. Like I said, if you're rushing, you need them for like maybe the same day. I would still recommend doing it in the fridge. It's just better, because then the downside of doing that is you have to take them out of the freezer freezer and then wait for them to defrost before you even slice them up. All I can really do now, guys, is report back to you tomorrow when they've had a lot of time in the fridge to chill. So I'll see you then. Good morning, guys. It's the next day now, and as you can see, our brownies have finished chilling. So there's only one more thing left to do, and that is slice it up. We're just going to remove this from the tin, carefully pull the sides down. I'm just going to try and be as symmetrical as possible. The best thing to do is like mark out where you want to cut before you actually do it. You just get a knife as big as the brownies and just carefully slice down. You can cut them smaller than I've made them if you fancy, but I think this will make 9 brownies. No, I'm going to do 12. And don't worry if there is a bit of residue on the knife. That is completely normal and actually a very good sign. And there you go, a lovely batch of evenly cut, gorgeously fudgy brownies. Let's get some close-ups so you can see just how fudgy they really are. Look at that, guys. They just really hold their shape so nicely. They look firm, but when you bite into them, they're just so like gooey and chocolatey. It's amazing. And then as you can see again, we've got that gorgeous crackly top and a chewy edge. These include everything you want in a brownie. Fudginess, chewiness, chocolatiness, all the nusses. The chocolate chips haven't sunk. It's just everything. It's just everything. The perfect batch of brownies. Also, if you did like the look of my brownie recipe, you can find it on my website. I will put the link in the description of the video. So that does complete the tutorial. I hope you have found this helpful. Let me know in the comments if you decide to give your own brownies a go. I would love to know how they turn out. Please do also let me know if there's any other tutorials you would like me to make. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next week.